Do you think that Vikings wore horned helmets, that Napoleon was very short, that electrons orbit a nucleus like planets around a sun, or that dinosaurs dragged their tails? Then you've probably been exposed to the grade school effect. What is the grade school effect? It is when you believe falsehoods that have been proven to be factually untrue because it's what you learned in grade school. History, science, and knowledge are a combination of stories told and retold 1,000 times in 1,000 ways. A cultural collective of stories trailing back to the beginning of time. Each new generation of storytellers passing that history on to the next, even if it is not accurate or factual. We humans love stories. Archaeological evidence shows us that human beings have been telling stories for as long as there have been human beings. They are an integral part of our history and even biology. It has been demonstrated that humans remember things better and engage their brains more fully when they hear or read a story. Many times, a really good story can transcend history and time and generations of tellers. For example, think about the oldest known written story in the world, the Epic of Gilgamesh. It was written on clay tablets back when writing was first being developed, and it is now a fixture of literature classes the world over. I read it in college, and very likely you read it at some point in your education as well. And even if you managed to somehow avoid reading this extremely long story from a bygone age, odds are that you have at least heard of it. Even if you haven't read a story or seen a play or movie, you are likely aware of its existence. And that is because of the collective nature of human experience. We learn something, and we talk about it online, at the dinner table, on the bus, at the urinal, and in every other circumstance we can find with other people. We talk to each other because humans are inherently social creatures. We like to be part of a group. And to prove that we are worthy of being part of a group, we expend social currency. Now, social currency is not tender like money. Rather, it is experience, wisdom, knowledge, and importance. I'm important to your group because I know this, or I can contribute that. We obtain social currency through education and acquiring skills and experience. Ultimately, it comes back to the idea that we want to appear to be well-informed and, well, valuable. And because of this, we seek out social currency and toss a little bit of it out every time we interact with other people. And the best part of social currency is that both the person telling the story and the person hearing it benefit and can pass it along to other people. Social currency does, however, come with an obvious and unfortunate drawback, which is that sometimes false stories are passed along as social currency. And that telling these made-up stories over and over and over again makes them part of our cultural zeitgeist. For example, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. He sailed west, searching for a passage to India, and his sailors were scared that they would sail off the edge of the earth, because in those days everyone thought the world was flat. Columbus discovered America, though, and proved that the world was round at the same time. Now, we've all heard that story, right? And yet every part of it is untrue. Christopher Columbus departed from Spain in August of 1492. A lookout on the Pinta, Rodrigo de Triana, spotted land on the morning of October 12th of the same year. Columbus was asleep of the time of the first actual sighting of the New World by the Spaniards, since it occurred at approximately 2 o'clock in the morning. He was on the Santa Maria, a completely different ship, and was unaware of it until the next day. The initial landfall was in the Bahamas, not America. In fact, Christopher Columbus didn't set foot on the North American continent mainland until 1502, and by the time that Columbus had landed, North America had already been known to Europeans for close to 500 years. The Scandinavians from Greenland had been fishing and logging along Canada's coast hundreds of years before Columbus was even born. And Columbus didn't discover that the Earth was round either. In fact, the idea that the Earth was round was by the time of Columbus millennia old. Eratosthenes, a Greek mathematician, had calculated the circumference of the Earth with very close accuracy in 238 BC. And Columbus, as well as literally anyone that sailed the sea, knew the Earth was round because they could watch the land and sails rise and sink below the horizon as they traveled, proving that the Earth was round. Columbus's expedition was originally intended to find a western passage to India for spices, and his men were worried that they would run out of food and supplies, which coincidentally they nearly did just crossing the Atlantic. The legend of Christopher Columbus was sparked nearly completely by Washington Irving, who wrote A History of the Life and Voyages of Christopher Columbus, which had become the most popular English treatment of Columbus's voyages when it was first published in 1828. Here's the problem. Washington Irving was a writer, not a historian, and his work was meant to inspire patriotism in his readers, not be particularly accurate. When Irving read the historical account of Columbus's journey, if indeed he did any deep research, he changed the events, elaborated on certain points and downplayed others, and played around with dates, ideologies, and in general just made stuff up. People reading Irving's work believed it. They believed it so much that this false history of Columbus has endured for almost 200 years, and even in the face of facts to the contrary. This sort of narrative becomes imprinted in cultures. History is full of biased, untrue, fabricated, and absurd stories because they are more interesting to listen to, more entertaining, and ultimately more easily remembered, leading to tiny Napoleons, green witches, and Vikings in horned helmets with fur loincloths and giant axes. The social currency is passed from one person to another without any particular thought as to whether or not it is true, and eventually it is so ingrained that it never leaves. That is the danger of the grade school effect. Kids are taught the same misinformation that their parents were taught, and that their parents were taught, and theirs, and theirs, and theirs before that, for generations down the line. And then when they are confronted with the actual truth, cognitive dissonance makes them deny the facts in favor of the narrative they were taught. Why should facts get in the way of perfectly good opinions? That's why it's so important to keep your eyes and mind open, and always be creative. Thanks for watching.